In the vastness of the universe, long before humans existed, the Earth was plunged into chaos. At that time, the sky and the Earth were separated by a great rift, and everything seemed to be in disarray. There was no life, no structure, only emptiness. But then, in the midst of this darkness and confusion, a divine figure emerged. Nüwa. Nüwa, the primordial goddess, was a powerful figure, capable of shaping the fate of the world. Her appearance was majestic, her human torso connected to the body of a serpent, making her unique and extraordinary. She was a blend of the human and the supernatural, a being capable of controlling nature and the elements with a mere thought. The creation of humanity began at a time when the earth was a desolate place, devoid of life or order. The gods, in their wisdom, saw the need to populate the world with beings capable of caring for and maintaining balance. It was then that Nüwa undertook a mission that would change the course of history, to shape the first humans. The task was not easy, but Nüwa was not afraid of challenges. She used the clay from the riverbank, kneading it with her divine hands. With each movement, she shaped small figures, infusing them with life through her divine essence. From this clay, Nüwa created the first humans, simple beings with a rudimentary appearance, but with a spark of life in their eyes. As she molded, Nüwa felt a deep love for these creatures. She gave them the ability to feel, to dream, and above all, to learn. She knew that if humans were to thrive, they would need more than just their physical form. They needed to know how to live, how to relate to nature, and how to find their place in such a vast and mysterious world. But while Nüwa shaped the humans, something else was happening in the sky. The rift separating the sky and the earth still existed, and the forces of chaos continued threatening to destroy all that she had created. The sky was filled with dark, clouds and storms raged fiercely, endangering both the newly created humans and the world itself. Nüwa, seeing the impending destruction, decided that she must intervene. She was a powerful goddess, but she had never faced something so great. The sky and earth were so divided that it sometimes seemed as though everything would be swallowed by chaos. However, Nüwa did not give up. She knew that her mission was not only to give life to humans, but also to maintain balance between the elements. In that moment, Nüwa made a bold decision. Using her magic and wisdom, she began to repair the sky. With large pieces of brightly colored stones, she started sealing the rift that separated the sky from the earth. Each stone she placed had a special energy, capable of restoring harmony to the world. It was a long and exhausting process, but Nüwa persevered, working day and night to restore balance to the universe. Meanwhile, the humans continued to evolve under her guidance. Despite the difficulties, Nüwa taught them how to survive in this world full of challenges. But she also knew that she could not always be there to protect them. The humans, though, born from her magic, needed to learn how to fend for themselves. The image of Nüwa working tirelessly to create and save humanity is one of the most powerful in Chinese mythology. She is not only the mother of humanity, but also the protector who watches over its survival. In her story, we find lessons of sacrifice, unconditional love, and the power of determination. But just when it seemed that peace had been restored, a new challenge emerged. A great storm broke out on the horizon, fiercer than any Nüwa had ever faced. This storm was not only a manifestation of the wrath of the heavens, but also a reflection of the resistance that humans would have to face on their journey toward progress. Would they be able to survive this storm looming over them? What decisions would Nüwa have to make to protect the beings she had created and save the world from total destruction? In moments of adversity, Nüwa proved to be much more than a creator, goddess. She was also a warrior, willing to face the elements to ensure that humans could thrive. But as we will see in the following parts of this story, her role in the creation of humanity did not end there. She was about to face a difficult decision. How could she teach humans to be responsible for their own destiny? And more importantly, how could she ensure that, despite everything that was happening, humans would understand the importance of their existence and the balance with the natural world? After repairing the sky and ensuring humanity's survival, Nüwa looked upon her creations. The first humans, though still rudimentary, were beginning to walk the earth, seeking their purpose and place in the world. But the goddess knew her task was far from complete. It was not enough to have given them life. She needed to teach them how to live. Nüwa watched as humans began forming small communities near rivers and forests. At first, they didn't know how to hunt, fish, or farm. They were completely dependent on nature for survival. And although the land offered abundance, the fragility of humans in the face of the dangers of the natural world was evident. The goddess knew she needed to provide them with the tools to thrive on their own. So, with great wisdom, she taught the humans to hunt and fish. She showed them how to create stone weapons, sharp and durable, to defend themselves from wild creatures and to gather food. Through this teaching, she gave them the ability to sustain themselves. But in addition to physical skills, Nüwa understood that humans also needed to grasp the spiritual world. She taught them to live in harmony with nature, to respect the cycles of the sun, moon, and seasons. She passed on the importance of living with the elements, how fire could be used to cook, but also to destroy if not handled with respect. One of the most significant moments in this process was when Nüwa taught them the importance of balance. She spoke to them about chaos and order, about how both are necessary for existence. She warned them that harmony would only be achieved if they understood that the universe was not about the constant struggle between good and evil, but about the acceptance that both exist in the same space, and both are essential for life. As the humans began to understand these teachings, Nüwa entrusted them with more responsibilities. She spoke to them about love, loyalty, and cooperation. In their stories, human creatures began to form pairs, care for their children, and build small villages. These were the first steps toward a civilization that, though still rudimentary, showed signs of potential. However, Nüwa knew that despite the lessons she had imparted, humans were still not ready to face the great challenges of the world. Chaos, though contained for the moment, still lurked. And worst of all, humans, though evolving, still did not fully understand their connection to nature. This imbalance could threaten all that Nüwa had accomplished. On the horizon, a new threat was brewing. Although Nüwa had repaired the sky, chaos continued to lurk in the shadows. Dark forces, born from primordial chaos, had infiltrated the minds of humans. As human civilization began to expand, some began to forget Nüwa's lessons. Ego and greed, feelings once foreign to these early humans, began to flourish. The first disputes between them broke out. Some wanted to dominate more land. Others wanted to accumulate wealth. The concept of balance, which Nüwa had worked so hard to instill, seemed to crumble. And with this rupture, chaos reappeared, this time in the hearts of humans. Nüwa, seeing the chaos unfold, realized that although humans had the power to create, they also possessed the power to destroy. It was necessary to guide them once more, this time toward a deeper understanding of their relationship with nature and with one another. It was at this moment that the goddess made an important decision. She knew that, to maintain harmony, she could not simply impose her will upon the humans. They needed to learn to balance chaos on their own. And for this, they needed to understand that balance was not just a divine principle, but a responsibility that belonged to them. Nüwa, then, withdrew somewhat from the human world. She decided to let them experience the consequences of their actions, though she remained vigilant to guide them from the shadows. This retreat marked a turning point in the history of humanity, a moment in which humans would have to learn on their own, face their own challenges, and find their own path toward balance. Over time, humans began to recognize the importance of what Nüwa had taught them. They understood that their survival depended not only on physical tools and skills, but also on their ability to maintain balance in their relationship with nature and with each other. As humans struggled to find their way, Nüwa watched them closely. Had they truly learned the lesson of balance? Would they be able to find the harmony she had dreamed for them? The fate of humanity was, once again, in their hands. But what Nüwa did not know was that, in her absence, a new force was beginning to grow among the humans. The desire for absolute power. This force, born from ego, was starting to corrupt some of them. And although balance had not yet been broken, the seed of chaos had been planted. The great question that Nüwa now had to face was whether humans would be able to overcome this test and continue on the path of harmony. Over the centuries, Nüwa's teachings began to fade from the collective memory of humans. The first villages, which had emerged under her guidance, transformed into great civilizations, increasingly complex and full of ambition. However, amid this progress, humans started to forget the essential balance the goddess had shown them. Chaos, always lurking, began to infiltrate their hearts. The desire for power began to grow among humans. Instead of seeing nature as a generous mother, many began to view it as a resource to be exploited. Struggles for control of land and resources became more frequent. Greed spread like a plague, dragging with it the respect for the principles that Nüwa had taught. While some still remembered her wise words, many others no longer considered them important. Ego had taken hold of humanity, and with it, chaos seemed to be reborn. In the great cities that flourished, some leaders began to amass power, believing that by dominating others, they would achieve greatness. They forgot about balance and began imposing their will upon nature. They destroyed forests to build new cities, diverted rivers to gain more land, and, most troubling of all, started exploiting the weaker ones to secure their dominance. The harmony that Nüwa had tried to cultivate was crumbling. But what humans didn't realize was that, by breaking this balance, they were opening the doors to the darkest forces of the universe. Chaos, which had remained hidden for so long, began to take form once again. It was not just an abstract concept. It was something alive, something tangible that fed on human discord. Evil spirits, born from primordial chaos, began to awaken, ready to sow even more confusion and destruction. The first signs of this darkness began to manifest when great storms ravaged the wealthiest regions. The skies darkened, and a heavy poisoned air began to spread. Crops were destroyed by unexpected droughts, and in the more distant villages, wild creatures began to attack humans, as if nature itself sought revenge. Nüwa, observing these events from her retreat, understood that the balance she had worked so hard to achieve was being destroyed. Despite her love and dedication to humanity, she could not intervene directly, as she had decided to let them follow their own path. However, the pain of seeing her creation suffer moved her to act once more. Thus, the goddess returned to the world of humans, but not with the same force as before. She knew humans had to learn on their own, but she also understood that her intervention was necessary to prevent catastrophe. Nüwa began to partially restore balance, but this time in a subtle manner, without showing her power directly. Instead of intervening with brute force, she decided to plant small seeds of wisdom in those who still remembered the ancient lessons. In the cities most affected by chaos, Nüwa manifested through dreams and visions, sending wise humans who received her teachings. These chosen ones began to preach the importance of balance and harmony with nature. Their words were like a whisper amid the clamor of greed. But, little by little, they began to resonate in the hearts of the people. However, chaos did not disappear completely. Although some cities began to change and seek a more harmonious path, most remained trapped in their struggle for power. Corruption clung to the minds of many, and ego continued to be the primary motivation for those who sought to rule. Humanity stood at a crossroads. Could they find balance again? Or would they be led astray by chaos until everything was destroyed? Nüwa knew that, in the end, the decision lay with them. She could not force them to change, but she could guide them along their way. The responsibility, more than ever, was in their hands. What Nüwa had not anticipated was that chaos, fueled by human ego, was beginning to take an even more dangerous form. It was as though chaos itself had become smarter, more cunning, and now understood how to manipulate humans. It used their weaknesses, their insatiable desires, to deepen the rift between them and nature. Meanwhile, The humans who remained faithful to Nüwa's principles tried to rebuild what had been destroyed. However, the world was no longer the same. The damage had been done, and the seeds of chaos had germinated in the minds and hearts of many. The struggle between balance and chaos had reached its climax, and only time would tell which side would prevail. Humanity found itself trapped in an internal struggle, a tug-of-war between balance and chaos. Nüwa's teachings, though remembered by some, seemed increasingly distant. The old beliefs about the sacred connection between humans and nature faded in the face of growing ambition and the desire for control. The world seemed on the verge of a new great catastrophe. Yet, amid the darkness, a small spark of hope arose. Seeing that chaos was gaining ground, Nüwa decided to intervene in a different way. Instead of acting directly, she focused on reconciliation between humans and nature. She knew that the power of transformation resided not only in her divine intervention, but also in humans' ability to recognize their own mistakes and reconnect with what truly mattered. In the villages most affected by human selfishness, Nüwa appeared in dreams to those who still maintained a deep connection to the earth. She spoke to them about the importance of humility, how nature is not a resource to exploit, but a companion to respect. She taught them that balance is not only achieved through physical actions, but through the transformation of the human heart. One of the most moving moments of this divine intervention occurred in a small village near a river. The villagers, who for years had fought to dominate the course of the water, found themselves facing a great drought that threatened to destroy their entire harvest. In their desperation, they turned to an elderly wise man, known to be one of the few who still respected Nüwa's ancient principles. The elder, after hearing Nüwa's words in his dream, decided to gather the community and share what he had learned. He spoke to them about the importance of living in harmony with the cycles of nature, how their actions had altered the flow of the water, and how they needed to restore the balance between man and earth. Over time, the villagers began to change their attitude. Instead of fighting against the drought, they worked together to find ways to live with it. They began cultivating in a way that respected the environment, using traditional methods that did not alter the natural balance. As they did so, they began to notice that the water was returning, little by little. The harvest, though not as abundant as before, was enough to survive. This small village became a symbol of what could happen if humans chose to abandon their desires for domination and learn to work with nature. The changes in this community began to spread to other villages, and the hope of restoring balance began to be reborn in the hearts of humans. However, Nüwa knew that reconciliation would not be easy. Chaos, which had been dormant for so long, would not disappear quickly. The dark forces that fed on human ego and ambition were still present, waiting for an opportunity to resurface. The path to restoration would be long and filled with challenges. Despite this, Nüwa never lost faith in humanity. She knew that balance was possible, but it depended on humans recognizing their connection with the world around them. This lesson, though harsh and painful, had to be fully learned if humans wanted to prosper in harmony with the universe. Humans began to face their own fears and desires. The leaders of the great cities began to reflect on their decisions, and some regretted their selfish acts. Through reflection and repentance, many began to change their ways, seeking solutions based on cooperation and mutual respect. Meanwhile, nature also responded to the change. Rivers, once overflowing or dry, began to find their natural course. Forests, which had been cut down without compassion, began to regenerate. The air filled with life, and the sky, once dark, began to shine with clarity. This restoration process was a reminder that balance was not something that could be imposed from above, but something that had to be cultivated from within, both in the human heart and in the natural world. Nüwa, with her eternal wisdom, understood that her role was not to save humans, but to guide them towards self-understanding and respect for what surrounded them. The reconciliation between humans and nature was a step toward the restoration of balance, but it was not the end of the journey. Although the darkness was beginning to recede, there was still much to be done. Humans had to continue learning, reflecting on their actions, and always seeking balance in every act. As the years passed, humanity began to rebuild a world in which balance and harmony were fundamental values. However, Nüwa knew that balance is never permanent. There would always be challenges, always temptations that would try to drag humans toward chaos. But what was important was that humans now understood their responsibility. Nüwa withdrew once more, but not permanently. Though she was not physically present, her wisdom continued to be a beacon for those who wished to live in harmony with the world. Her legacy endured in the stories the elders told to the new generations, in the teachings passed from parents to children. And although the future remained uncertain, humanity knew that they could always return to Nüwa's principles when needed. Balance, that invisible force that unites all aspects of life, will always be a battle that each human being must face. And, as Nüwa taught, the path to harmony can only be reached when each of us learns to recognize the deep connection we have with the world around us. Time passed, and the human generations born after the great changes continued to carry the torch of ancestral wisdom. The figure of Nüwa, although no longer present in a tangible form, remained alive in the collective memory. The stories of her sacrifice and love for humanity were not only passed down through words, but were reflected in the daily actions of those who understood her message. Balance is the key to harmony in the world. However, as time progressed, humans also faced new challenges. Societies became more advanced, cities grew larger, but ambition remained a lurking enemy, hiding in the shadows, ready to drag humans back into chaos. What was different this time was that the sacrifice of Nüwa could no longer be ignored. The world had learned that, by violating the balance, humans were not only harming themselves but everything around them. The earth, the air, the water, and future generations. In the heart of the ancient mountains, where the valleys still preserved the purity of nature, some humans began to build temples dedicated to Nüwa. These temples were not only places of worship, but also centers of reflection, where visitors could learn about the goddess's wisdom and the teachings that had endured through the centuries. Here, wise men and spiritual leaders continued to delve into the truth that Nüwa had revealed. True greatness does not lie in domination, but in respect and cooperation with all elements of the world. However, even though humanity had taken steps toward the restoration of balance, the fear of chaos never completely disappeared. As always, dark forces continued to seek cracks through which they could infiltrate. In times of peace, humanity might feel secure, but the danger of falling back into selfishness and disorder still lurked. Nüwa's legacy, then, was not only a call for reflection, but also a reminder that balance was an ongoing effort. Throughout history, human societies would face challenges and temptations, but there would always be the possibility of redemption, as long as Nüwa's lesson remained alive in the hearts of those who understood her message. In more recent tales about Nüwa, it is said that the goddess, though withdrawn from direct sight, continues to watch with compassion the fate of her creation. Some sages believe that, when humanity finds itself once again on the brink of chaos, Nüwa will descend once more to help restore balance. But this return would not be an act of direct salvation, but rather a guide towards self-understanding, helping humans to recognize, for themselves, the path to harmony. Through the centuries, the figure of Nüwa also transformed into a symbol of hope. She represented the inner strength of every human being to overcome their limitations, to learn from their mistakes, and to always seek harmony amidst adversity. She was a goddess who not only created, but also forgave, understood, and guided. In the end, the story of Nüwa is not just the story of a goddess, but of every human being who seeks to find their place in the world. It is a story of growth, redemption, and unconditional love for the earth that sustains us. The creation of man from clay, the efforts to repair the sky, and the constant struggle between balance and chaos are universal lessons that resonate throughout time, inviting us to reflect on our own relationship with nature, with others, and with ourselves. Nüwa's legacy endures, not only as an ancient myth, but as a timeless truth that continues to light the way toward a more just, harmonious, and respectful world. Thus, as we conclude this story, we invite all those who have witnessed this narrative to reflect on their own lives and the relationship they have with balance. If you ever feel lost or overwhelmed by ambition and chaos, remember Nüwa, the goddess who taught us that true strength lies in peace and respect for all that surrounds us. And if you want to continue exploring this fascinating world of Chinese myths and legends, don't miss our next video about Fuxi and Nüwa, a mythological couple who taught humans to survive, hunt, and fish. Until then, may balance and harmony always accompany your paths.